Welcome back in, everyone. Thank you for staying with us. I am joined here by Dave Albee, author of The Last One Out of Town, Turn Out the Lights, story of the 1975 Foxcroft Academy basketball team. Dave, thanks for joining us today.
Pleasure being here.
So you wrote this story about the undefeated, the one and only undefeated team in Foxcroft boys basketball history, but really it starts in the 1960s, years before this team took down the Nets with the town of Monson.
Right. You can't tell the story of Foxcroft basketball without telling the story of Monson basketball. And in 1968, Monson won the Class S state championship in Portland, and they came back to Monson that night and did a big celebration. And there's a kid named Kevin Nelson, who was a fifth grader, 5'11" at the time, 5'10" at the time, who was back in the gym looking at all this going on and marveling about it. And he's thinking, you know, I'm going to become the next big thing, and I'm going to lead Monson to multiple state championships. When I get in high school, I'm going to follow Buddy Levitt's footsteps. Well, the problem is the months later, after this climax in Monson of winning a state championship, they have a vote between about a consolidation, school district 68 involved Dover, Foxcroft, Charleston, Sebec, and Monson. And this is, you know, a sad time for Monson. I mean, they're all into the basketball team. They got state champions, a tremendous basketball tradition in Monson, and all of a sudden they're talking about closing Monson Academy and shipping their students to Dover, Foxcroft. So the vote comes up. By far the most people who voted, and the closest vote was in Monson. But it did pass, so they ended up, the students are shipped from Monson to Dover, Foxcroft, about 20 miles. And Kevin Nelson comes down to from southeast Monson, where he grew up, about population about 50. He winds up coming down on the bus from Monson and in 8th grade and plays on an undefeated team at Dover Grammar School in 8th grade, and the rest is history from there on out. So
it's a really interesting story, and you've been all over the place. Your sports writing career has taken you to 4 different states, including Maine. What made you want to tell this story?
Well, I actually came back it's always been in the back of my mind because, again, it's personal to me because I went to Foxcroft Academy, graduated in 1972, played football there, played baseball there, played basketball badly there, and I ended up coming back from my 50th high school reunion in 2022, and I was connected with a classmate who I hadn't seen in like 40 years named Dwayne Dewey Warren. And he was being inducted into the Foxcroft Academy Athletics Hall of Fame, and he knew I had been a sports writer, so he asked me to write an introduction for him for the program for the induction ceremony. So I wrote it for him. He goes, "Dave, this is great." And then he says, "Why haven't you written a book? Why haven't you written a book?" And we start talking about, you got to write a book about Foxcroft, and we started talking about the 75 team because I had covered the team for the Piscataquis Observer. And the more I thought about it, and again, you're looking at this differently now as an adult, 50 years later, and I said we missed a story there with the Monson and Dover connection, and the fact that the basketball coach comes back to his hometown to coach, and Foxcroft had no winning tradition at all in basketball until that point, and all of a sudden, they catch lightning in a bottle, or as Kevin Nelson said, that meteor came through Dover Foxcroft in 1975. So.
Must have been just like a trip back in time for you, connecting with all of these people, writing the book.
That was the cool thing about it. It was a trip down memory lane, and I first started talking to Skip Hansen, then I started talking to Kevin Nelson, and I sort of describe it as going down a rabbit hole. It seemed like every week I'm going down a different rabbit hole because the story is taking me to something else, another story. And it all comes together, and I'm going, this is incredible. All these stories, and most of them are funny, and there's some sad ones. And in the Monson years is a sad story, and how bitter the town was about having to, do the consolidation. But it was a lot of fun. I just can say it was a blast doing this book.
The basketball tournament tips off tomorrow. This book released today on Thursday. Just one thing that I think, or one phrase you use to describe the basketball tournament is something I see every year, civic pride.
Yes.
And I think this book is just a great tale of civic pride from Foxcroft to Monson.
Well, Monson obviously had a great tradition. Foxcroft didn't, but all of a sudden the town and the community of Dover Foxcroft just got obsessed with this team more than anything else, and was captivated by it. And then when the tournament started in 1975, the quarterfinals were coming up, and a gentleman in town, or his custodian actually, his name's Neil Johnston, decides that he's going to show his spirit and stuff like that. So he decides to build a sign. And the last one out of town, turn out the lights. It's sort of a common refrain among small schools and schools and everything. But I hadn't seen Neil take it to this point. He just made a giant sign out of it. It was a big plywood sign, probably 6'8" by 10 by 12 plywood sign that said, "The last one in town, turn off the lights," and he planted it on Route 15 from Dover, Foxcroft to Bangor. You couldn't miss it, it's so big. And everybody just went amazing. Everybody I talked to regarding the story, they said, "Oh, the sign, I'll never forget the sign," and talk about the sign. So to me, it became the obvious title for the book, although, you know, you don't like to have 10 words on the front cover of your book at the time, you like to have 2 or 3, but to me, it was the obvious and the best title for the book to do that, so.
And if people want to get a copy of this book, where can they go to find it?
Well, it'll be, you know, in Bangor you'll be able to find it at the Books A Million would be a place to go. The Briar's Patch would be a place to go. But if you want, the easiest way is there's a website I created for the book specifically called thelastOneOutOfTown.com. You can go on that and order it from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, BAM, bookshops.com. It's probably the best place to find it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, David, well, thank you for joining us. I'm excited to dig a little bit deeper into this book, but I get some time off after the tournament. So hey, thank you very much for stopping by.
Thanks, Tyler. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll have much more after the break.